my fellow ambassadors and friends. I pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet today and to the elders, past, present and emerging. On behalf of the Islamic Council of Queensland and its member organizations, I take this opportunity to thank Mental Health Foundation of Australia for allowing me to talk on the issue of mental health within the community that I represent. I would also like to thank the Mental Health Foundation for appointing me as an ambassador, a position and title that has given me immense opportunity and training to create a better understanding and awareness of mental health issues. Mental illness, like any other illness, does not discriminate. The community I represent is affected just as much as any other community in Australia. I want to reflect on the last 2 decades especially, and how circumstances have impacted my community. Although Muslims have been in Australia since the early 1700s, the events of 9/11 have had a devastating and damaging outcome for us as a community, and especially for our females. We have been held to account for the actions of 19 criminals that committed murder and mayhem thousands of miles away. Overnight, shock jock media commentators became experts on my religion. Being sworn at, spat upon, and physically assaulted in public areas and shopping centers causes trauma and occurs almost daily, even now. Being discriminated against in the workforce because of one's clothing or name is another traumatic experience. Children being bullied and abused at school is common practice, and their mental health is heavily impacted. A large cohort of our community is made up of refugees. Research on the prevalence of psychopathology, and particularly post-traumatic stress symptoms, clearly demonstrate that refugees are vulnerable to the effects of pre-migration, most notably exposure to trauma. Particular groups in this population constitute higher psychological risk than others, namely those with extended trauma experience, unaccompanied or separated children, and those engaged in the uncertain process of seeking asylum. Given that war and political violence are major causes of forced migration, refugees and asylum seekers migrate with a history of traumatic stress exposure. So mental health issues within my community has increased exponentially over the last 2 decades. The ever-present fear of being abused or attacked, being discriminated against, and targeted by biased reporting has added to our mental stress and anxiety. A turning point came in the form of the Christchurch massacre early last year. The fears that I mentioned earlier have been exacerbated, and at the same time, the support shown to my community by thousands of Australians has been just phenomenal. Even now, I personally, every time I drive to the mosque, I ask myself, what if? Adding to the above, the effects of COVID-19 continues to take a toll, not only on my community, but on humanity itself. The last 8 months has left many to cope under extraordinary circumstances. In addition, it has been found that across faith groups, there is an increasing concern for the mental health of faith workers, as the persistent strain of responding to high levels of need and stress has sapped their emotional and physical health. At this point, I would like to extend my community's thanks and appreciation to our Premier and her government for the outstanding job they have done in Queensland. A special thanks also to Dr. Jeanette Young for her priceless contribution in helping us through this pandemic. The challenge for us as community leaders is to find ways that would encourage our affected members to overcome their personal fears of stigma and embarrassment, and to this end, the work done by Mental Health Foundation Australia and the many other organizations operating in the mental health space is appreciated and welcomed by each and every one in my community. Thank you.